But Marshall, you've got an incredible story. I mean, it didn't begin like this with you. You've had a kind of a rough upbringing from what I've seen. I mean, you've faced poverty, and when it comes to the kind of surroundings, you haven't been given the silver spoon. Obviously, success has happened because you've made a few decisions. Can you just kind of take us back for people that don't know your story, how it actually began? What was the situation like in your childhood years?
I was born and raised on a farm in Michigan, northwest U.S.
Yes.
And we had no running water, we had no electricity, we had no running water, we had no telephone. Often we had little, sometimes no food. And forget me, northeast United States. And twice my family was homeless. I have 9 siblings, 10 kids in my family, and my mom raised us on her own and worked 3 jobs. And so I watched how harsh life could be. We got booted out of the first house. It got condemned. We lived in a car, all 11 of us, 10 kids and my mom. We lived in a car for 2 weeks. The local community came together, and they renovated a chicken coop and moved my family into this converted chicken coop. And it had running water, it had electricity. Other than clucking when I get happy, no adverse side effects. But these days, my life is very different. These days, I'm broadcasting from my office right here at what we call Prosperity Palace, my 17,000 square foot home in Las Vegas. I spend half time there. I spend part-time at our beach house down on the coast in San Diego, California. And it's a really blessed life. I'm very, very grateful. And it's all based on hypnosis. It's all based on what I did in my late teens to reprogram my brain, to release drug addictions, to start programming in the thoughts of a multimillionaire so that I would take similar actions and produce similar results. So yes, I am a product of the product, and it's been amazing. I am very grateful, and it's something that I've had the opportunity to teach, literally at this point, millions of people how to do the very same thing.
That's incredible, Marshall, because I mean, I'm sure the people that are coming in, when they're looking for an opportunity online, they're obviously struggling in their own life, okay? They're obviously facing some sort of financial difficulty, or maybe they're not free, they're not spending enough time with their children. Whatever your situation is, guys, you're obviously looking for something, right? So, Marshall, I just want to understand your childhood upbringing. It kind of obviously it creates a blueprint in your subconscious mind that this is what life's like. I faced poverty. How come you didn't actually fall into that trap of being secure, you know, wanting a job like everyone else does, just kind of working, trading your hours for the money, you know how much money you're getting in each month? Why didn't you fall into that trap? What piece of information came across you that changed your kind of, wiped out all that blueprint and experience?
There was a couple of things that happened. When I was probably 5.5, 6 years old,
right,
my mom was preparing dinner. And unbeknownst to me in my childhood mind, it was the Last Supper. We didn't have any more food.
Yeah.
And my mom was making this peach cobbler. She found a big can of peaches in the back of the pot cupboard. And she had been making a peach cobbler out of, you know, simple flour and peaches. And as she was praying, I could see she was crying. She was sobbing. Tears were streaming down her face.
Yeah.
And I'm watching my mom crying, and she's saying, God, please provide for my family.
Right.
And I made up my mind when I saw my mother in so much pain that whatever was causing her pain, I would do. Whatever I had to do, that she never felt that pain again. And when I saw that, when I saw the pain that she was in, I realized that it was about money. There was a knock on the door. And the knock on the door opened up, and there was a neighbor behind the door, and he had 2 bags of groceries. And the neighbor said, Virginia, we understand that you are having challenges. And he brought the food in, and behind him was another neighbor, and behind them another neighbor, and another neighbor. And pretty soon we're dancing. You know, we're eating bread and drinking milk, and we're celebrating life. And I realized in that moment, very early on, that money really does matter, and that even though money won't buy you happiness, that it sure can rent it. And it sure can make life easier. And
yeah,
so early on, I had an imprint, a subconscious imprint about money. And then a little later in my life, when I was 7 years old, my brother did some magic tricks that he learned from a magazine. And when I saw the magic tricks, I fell in love with entertaining. I fell in love with magic. And so for my first years, I was a magician. At 10 years old, became a professional performer. And, you know, in the course of my life, I've always been willing to work hard because I've always wanted to have more. And I knew that if I was going to get anymore. I would have to get it myself. And I think that these days, Princess, that there's a real dangerous thing going around the world. And it's not just in the U.S. I know it's also in the U.K. and many parts of Europe. And some people may not like what I have to say. And yet I'm going to say the truth anyways. I'd rather have an opinion and get attacked than have no opinion and have everyone love me. And here's my opinion. My opinion is that the governments around the world are attempting to dummy down people, that they're attempting to make people slaves to the governments to serve them. And I think one of the first ways that you make someone a slave is you make them dependent. And so many people are looking for handouts and how much can they get for nothing. Over in the U.S. right now, there's a big argument about what minimum wage should be. Right. And my response is, if you're thinking about what minimum wage is, you're focused on the wrong thing. You should be thinking about, how do I make money so far beyond minimum wage, it doesn't matter to me.
Right, right.
So, you know, that's the beauty about network marketing. That's the beauty about online marketing. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that we get to determine our income level. We get to determine our work hours. We get to determine our circumstances and even our vehicle, so that every single day we can do something we absolutely love, so it never feels like work. And at the same time, if we are like most people in this industry, our core value comes down to contribution to other people's lives. Excellent,
excellent point that you made there, Marshall. Because I want to bring the scenario out to you. Someone that I know, okay, has a child. He's extremely brilliant, you know. But the thing is, in his school, he's not being taken up in his sets because he comes from a kind of poor background. He's not being encouraged to move up his level of education that he's getting in the school. Do you think this is on purpose, that this kind of system that we live in is programmed to make people into plumbers when they're older, make people into workers, you know, minimum wage, you know, people, or, you know, not kind of excel in whatever they can do? Is it happening deliberately?
Well, I just want to comment. I know you didn't mean to knock plumbers, but Kurt Kerkorian, the man who owns MGM Grand Resorts, multi-billionaire, started as a plumber.
Right.
Yes, I do think that the system around the world is designed to keep people down, to keep people controlled. Chances are your friend's child, they're keeping him down because they're probably giving him some ridiculous label like ADD or ADHD or whatever they can.
Yes.
When I was a child, they gave me a label. They thought I was mentally handicapped. They put me in special education classes. And it wasn't that I was mentally handicapped. These days, they would have labeled me ADD. They'd have given me the whole alphabet. And the reason is that I was very bright. I learned things very quickly. And so when I would learn something, I would be bored because the teacher, by design, had to make sure that the majority of the class understood before they could move on. So public school systems cater to the common or even the least common denominator. So people that are really sharp, people that are really motivated, they get held back. There are people watching this broadcast right now, Princess, that their friends said, "Oh, you're watching another one of those webinars? Yeah. Don't let them try to sell you anything. Yeah. You know, why are you wasting your time with all of that?" And it's because the challenge is that often people close to us don't understand us. And since relationships are like scales and that they balance each other out, that if you attempt to grow, if you attempt to advance your life and become a better person, the other side of the scale, in order to keep things status quo, either has to grow or more times than not will actually reach over and pull you down. And so a lot of times that's what happens, and those people are quite often the people closest to us, yes. Family, dear friends, and so forth.
You said, I think you said this in one of your programs that I was listening to, that even positive people, in a way that it can affect you worse, like even the people around you that love you the most, they can give you positive information, but it's actually weakening you in a way that, if I give an example, say for instance in your situation, Marshall, obviously maybe your mum taught you that you need to work hard, okay, that's what you were taught because you saw her doing it, working 3 jobs and in exchange for the money. How did you break away from that pattern being taught to you?
I got hypnotized the first time when I was 16 years old. I was at my high school, and a stage hypnotist gave me a suggestion. He said that when he said the words "Sonny Boy," I would stand up from my seat in the audience, I'd come back to the stage, I'd fall on my butt, I'd roll my pant legs up above my own knees. I'd climb on his lap. I'd put my thumb in my mouth, and I'd say, "Sing it again, Daddy." As a child, I was extremely insecure. It's what drove me to be a drug addict. I'm wearing my sister's hand-me-downs to school on most days. We don't have any money, and it was embarrassing. And so when I was going back to my seat in the audience, I was thinking to myself, I'll be damned if I'm going to do this. And yet I go back to my seat in the audience, and I hear him say, "Sonny boy," and it's the weirdest sensation. I feel like a magnet's pulling me right back to the stage, and I come back to the stage, fall on my butt, roll up my pant legs, thumb in my mouth, climb on his lap, "Sing it again, Daddy." And I went home, and I thought, gosh, was I hypnotized, or was I just doing what he told me to do? And I thought, well, what if he told you to just get off drugs? And because he told you to do that, you just did it. What if he told you to be confident no matter what was going on? Just believe in yourself, and you just did it. What if he told you to go out and be a multi-millionaire? And because he told me that I could, I believed that I would. And I went out and took faithful action. And I realized in that moment, if that is hypnosis, which it absolutely is, then it's the most powerful force on the planet. So in answer to your question, yeah, a lot of times programs get into our head that we think are good, and they're not. The example you gave was a perfect example from my life. My father was a mean man. He was an angry man, and he hurt me. He would tell me I was a horrible human being every single day, and I'd never amount to anything, and he wished I'd never existed. I realized that was his pain. That had nothing to do with me, and I came to realize that hurt people hurt people. My mother, whom I love so very much, who passed a year ago, this amazing woman who raised her 10 kids on her own, who gave us great values, and who was there for all of us, she gave me a program that slipped by because I loved her so much. I didn't defend for it. And she said, "Work hard, get ahead."
Right.
Well, every single person watching this program right now knows that if you work hard, if you finish a full day's labor in a half a day, your boss is going to give you another full day's labor for the second half of the day.
Yes.
And so most of the population has become accustomed to doing as little as they possibly have to maintain their jobs. They don't want to give more than they're paid for because they don't think there's any benefit in it. And I will tell you, Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich basically said, always over-deliver, always give more than you're promising.
That's absolutely beautiful, Marshall. I mean, that particular area is a show itself, you know, about kind of re-engineering your thoughts and getting yourself into the right information. There's loads of questions coming in. I'm going to take them as we go along. Guys, bear with me, but we want to tap into Marshall a little bit more. Marshall, what about, okay, when did you, how did you, okay, first of all, recognizing a blueprint that's been installed in you through your surroundings in your childhood years, it's obviously, it requires awareness, right? First of all, you have to be aware that blueprint exists. A lot of people aren't aware of that. How do they become aware, and how do they start asking the right questions? What kind of questions should they be asking to raise that awareness?
Am I getting the result that I want?
Right.
That's the question. Am I getting the result that I want? Because if I'm not getting the result that I want, I'm doing something wrong. And so the more personal responsibility I can take on, the more I can stop blaming my government, the economy, my ex-wives, the more I can just say, okay, I'm not getting what I want. I need to do something different. I had been married twice in my life prior to my bride, my one true wife. And after I'd gone through my second divorce, I'd been married 11 months. The divorce took 4.5 years. I sat down and I said, what are you doing wrong? And I literally prayed to God. I said, God, here's what I want. I want someone kind. No drama. I just want kindness. And I don't care what form she shows up in. I don't care how young, how old, how skinny, how fat. I don't care what race she is. I don't care what religion she believes in. I just want someone, let's start with kind.
Right.
And when I changed my criteria of what I was asking for, everything changed. And I've been married for 7 years. I've got 2 beautiful sons. We never fight. We never argue. We have 0 drama. And it's all really because I kept asking myself, I thought I knew what I wanted. I thought I knew what would work, but apparently I was mistaken. You know, I kind of liken it to Thomas Edison seeking to invent anything, or Tesla seeking to invent something. Even though you may have a preconceived notion of what works, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you have to ask yourself, what am I doing that's not working? And even though it seems like it won't work, how can I work differently? And I'll give you an example from the last part of the interview. I was talking about hard work doesn't get you ahead. Those that think govern those that labor. And so the key to building wealth is to get smarter. and to find a mentor that you can identify with and also that you believe started off worse than you did. Early in my life, I was fortunate enough to have a mentor that hired me when I was 14 years old to work full-time in his retail establishment. And I watched him go from poor boy who loved his mother to self-made multi-millionaire by the time he was 25. And I realized that if he could do it, I could do it. When I made my many of millions and I wanted to take it to the next level, I found a mentor actually from your neck of the woods, a guy that was kicked out of school, asked to leave, not just quit school, asked to leave school, a guy who started with nothing, a guy whose father didn't give him millions to get his career started, somebody who was massively self-made, and a bit of a rascal, because I'm a bit of a rascal. And I paid $25,000 to have dinner with Sir Richard Branson and 20 other people. Now, the 20 other people all paid $5,000 apiece. And when people ask me, why did I pay $25,000 to his charity when they only paid $5,000? I said, I just have one criteria. I want the seat directly beside him.
Right.
And they gave me the seat beside him, and it began a really great friendship. I've been down to Necker Island a half a dozen times. It's where I proposed to my beautiful bride. And Branson is a classic man in that he's not just a self-made man. He's a self-made, awesome human being. And everything he does for people, for the charities, for the planet, he's a good guy. You know, and sometimes people are too close. Here in the U.S., we've got Trump. And I'm not a fan of Donald Trump's. My father didn't give me $200 million to get my career started. And if he had given me $200 million, I too could have turned it into $1 billion worth of debt, given a little effort.
Absolutely fantastic. There's a couple of things that you've touched upon there. The difference between successful people and not so successful people is they don't inquire about money. They don't ask questions when it comes to money. They're more into how much value am I going to get out of that. So I'm going to touch on that in a little while shortly. But Marshall, going back to your story, so first of all, from what I understand from your upbringing, you had a huge desire, right? It was building inside you to help your mother break away from this poverty. So that's one point. Going to that show that you went to with the hypnosis on the stage, that was another. Was that a turning point from you as well, being exposed to that kind of information? That
it was. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like a speed, though. It didn't instantly change me.
Right.
I went to the show. I discovered the power of hypnosis. I hypnotized my first hypnotic subject the next year. It was a girl that was my best friend. She wasn't romantically interested in me. I was head over heels in love with her in high school. And she would date other guys and then sing the blues to meet her best friend. And she wouldn't date me. She wouldn't be my girlfriend. I hypnotized her. She was my first subject. And after I hypnotized her, she wouldn't leave me alone. Right. And so naturally, I was hooked on hypnosis. So the process, though, was a transition that took some time. I went through 8 jobs and 8 apartments in 2 years. And I was kind of sampling the buffet. And oftentimes in the network marketing industry, people get accused of shiny ball syndrome or looking for the next great offer.
Yes.
And I would agree that you need to focus on something for sure. Nothing's going to work with only a little bit of your attention. The other thing, though, that is certain is you've got to find what you love. Steve Jobs, in his commencement speech at Stanford University, said no matter how long it takes, no matter what you have to go through, find the thing that you love. Find the thing that you would do if no money were involved. Find the thing that you would be completely satisfied devoting an entire lifetime to. And then whether you make money or not is secondary. The fact is, though, when you find what you love and you focus your attention on that thing, you'll end up doing it very well. And you touched on it. The key to wealth is to get out of our own heads and get into other people's lives. In other words, get out of our own heads and ask ourselves the question, how can I give value to other people? And when you serve other people, when you give them value in a way that is meaningful to them, what happens is they want to give you money. They want to take care of you because they want more of that thing that you're giving them.
Absolutely incredible. Excellent. Now, there's a question coming in. It's a very simple one, but it's a good one. Thank you, Susan, for joining us today. What is hypnosis?
Oh, different question.
She's asking, what is hypnosis?
Hypnosis is the non-critical acceptance of ideas or concepts on a subconscious level. Right. One person says something, another person believes it to be true, and then most importantly, acts upon it as if it's true. That's hypnosis. Self-hypnosis is the same thing. We've got 1,500 words per minute going through our brain, telling us who we are and who we aren't, what we can be, what we can do, what we can have. And so if I tell myself, you know, I'm an idiot, this is never going to work out, then I find evidence to support that reality. If I tell myself, I'm a moron, I can't figure this out, I absolutely will not access the portions of my subconscious and conscious minds that could actually solve the challenge. The moment you decide, I am a genius, the moment you just even say the words, what happens is your mind begins to operate differently. And so you'll see the exact same challenge in front of you, and even if you are not instantly able to solve the challenge, your brain says, I'm a genius, I'm going to solve this challenge. And so you instantly solve the challenge. And that is the biggest distinction between people who solve things and people who do not, is people who solve things say, even if I don't solve it instantly or easily, I know I can solve this thing. The second program, as far as success goes, is to determine that you are right now a millionaire, even if the money has not yet been deposited in your bank account. And the reason that's key is that the moment you accept the fact that it's not a can I, that it's an absolute, it's done, I just don't know when, experience, then you start seeing things differently. And you realize that millionaires and billionaires, we think differently than paupers. We don't ask how much does it cost. We don't care. We want to know how much can it make us. We don't determine what we want based on its price tag. We determine what we want based on what we want. And even if the price tag is out of reach, we say, that's okay. I'll figure it out. I'm still not going to let go of wanting it. On the other side, though, we also savor the wanting as much as the having, meaning we don't feel bad because we don't have what we want yet. We say, no, it's okay. I'm going to have fun in the process of getting it. And I think that those are some pretty major distinctions between what people that struggle and are frustrated and are angry and resent wealthy people do, opposed to the people that just say, no, how do I do this? That's why I paid Branson $25K to have a 90-minute dinner with him and 20 other people, is I asked him a simple question. What bad millionaire habits do I have to let go of to become a billionaire? And he told me what millionaire habits I had to let go of and what billionaire habits I had to take on, and it is what's causing us to massively grow right now.
Absolutely incredible, Marshall. Wow, the questions are just going mad. Guys, I will come back. Right, Marshall, okay, so how do people create their own reality? Because everyone's got different perception of what's real, okay? And obviously people see things differently. So how can everyone come to one stage of thinking? How do you use the power of hypnosis to make people kind of break away from what they picture as reality to what is actually real?
The bottom line is what we believe to be true is true for us.
Right.
What we focus on expands, and that reality is created by validation. For years, I thought I might not want to have children because I had, during the course of my young years and throughout much of my life, seen absolute proof that we are not alone in this universe. And my real concern was, if I bring children into the world, you know, what if we are just some experiment here on Earth for some other planet's food source? And what if I'm bringing my children into a world, even if that's not true, that is rapidly deteriorating its natural resource, everything? And one day I just said, you know what, that is a very limiting belief. Yes. What if your son is John Connor? What if your son is actually the person that the planet needs to sustain itself, and your son or your kids could actually change the world? What if you could in your lifetime? Yeah. And so, you know, part of what we need to ask ourselves is those what if questions. What if this is possible? What if we can work this out? What if there is a way to do this deal that everybody wins so that it can sustain itself? And, you know, and I keep coming back to Branson, not just because he's in your neck of the woods. I come back to Branson because I really do believe this guy's brilliant. And I remember after Paul Allen won the X Prize and got $1 million for sending a private citizen into outer space, Branson says, loudly proclaims, we're announcing Virgin Galactic. And everybody thought he was just doing it as a publicity stunt. Well, one of the things I'm positive about entrepreneurs, we go beyond what's current, and we project, and we say, this is what I'm going to do, then we figure it out. And clearly that's what he's done. Obviously, Virgin Galactic is a real project. It's really happening. Yes. And I think that so many people are afraid to project forward. They're afraid to say, this is what I'm doing. I am a billionaire whose money has not yet been deposited in my account. I am a multi-million-dollar producing part of this network marketing team. Whatever it is, I just think so many people have the biggest fear that the planet holds, and that is the fear of looking bad in front of other people. Right. When you let go of that need to have approval from other people, you say, no, I don't need your approval. I might need some higher power's approval. I don't need your approval. then what happens is you start taking more risks. And more risks mean more goodies. And when you stop worrying about how many times you fall down, and when you stop worrying about what will they think of me, and you say, no, I know what I'm doing here, and even if I fall down 9, I'm standing up 10, and I'm not going to let this hold me back. And if I die in the process, I'll be quite okay with that. When people finally get to that place, everything's easy.
Excellent, absolutely fantastic, guys. Wow, I'm sure you're enjoying the show so far. Guys, we are going to touch on some amazing topics as we go along, but keep your questions coming in, I will address them. So, Marshall, when it comes to, do you think people hold back because of self-image and confidence and lack of confidence?
Certainly lack of confidence, and I think that lack of confidence is what creates that bad self-image. You know, my head doesn't grow hair. I have 4 brothers. They have Elvis Presley hair. They do. They all have big, beautiful, full heads of hair. And I was talking to an entertainment friend of mine last night. We were out late here in Las Vegas, actually. His name's Gordy Brown. And hold on one second. I have a TV network that fires off TV commercials. Thank goodness it does, because that's how I get paid. I didn't realize we were tuned into it. And as a young man, since my head didn't grow hair, I really had to work harder, and I really thought that I needed to do more. I wasn't as beautiful as my brothers or a lot of other people. And so oftentimes people will take what they consider to be a setback or a limitation and make it so. Rather than say, no, it's not a setback or a limitation. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to do more. I'm going to be more. And then that's why oftentimes you see people who have very little resource succeeding at massive levels where people that have the resource don't.
Right.
And so, you know, if you've got any kind of perceived limitation, if you think you're not tall enough or, you know, beautiful enough or rich enough or smart enough, my recommendation is you let go of that hypnosis. It's a lie. I'm calling BS. It's not true. And I want you to realize that that thing that you resisted may just be the very thing that creates a distinction for you. Branson was was considered ADD. They asked him to leave school.
Right.
And so rather than take that as a bad thing, he said, great, I'm going to go out, and I'm going to go do what I need to do. I'm going to have an amazing life, and I'm not going to ever look back. So I have a 4-step process that I teach in some of our live events, and we do live events mostly here in the U.S. We also have traveled around the world. And it's 4 steps to what I call total enlightenment. And step number 1 is forgive everyone, including yourself. You cannot change your past. If you've mucked up your past, like we all have at times, let it go. Learn the lesson. Forgive yourself. Number 2, surrender and find your life perfect. Deal with what emerges. Because whatever hand you've been dealt, that's the hand you have to play. So stop thinking about, if only things were different, then I could have this different result. No, you can still have the result. Surrender, find it perfect, figure out what the blessing is. Here's the big step. Step number 3 to total enlightenment, to living in the light, to having the life that you want, is utilize versus tolerate. Don't put up with your life. Absolutely ask yourself, what is it that's so perfect about this thing that's going on right now that I thought might have been a disaster, that I might have thought was a curse, and ask yourself, what's the blessing here? What can this thing do that I wouldn't be able to do if this hadn't happened in my life? Because when you do that, what happens is you'll produce way more abundance than you could ever consume yourself. You'll have so much extra of everything. There'll only be one thing left to do, and that will be to serve others, to give it away. And the moment you start giving it away, like you are on this show, like you taking your time to bring entrepreneurs on, you sharing your own knowledge with other people, when you start giving it away, you produce so much abundance that it's an unending circle. It just keeps coming back to you again and again and again and again.
Absolutely amazing, Marshall. I could listen to you forever. Are you hypnotizing me right now?
Of course not.
Right, excellent. Right, Marshall, so in this industry, network marketing, right, people join systems that are online, and 97% of people fail. Okay, I've got a question coming here related to this. Thank you. It's anonymous, so I don't want to really mention. But he's saying that I've joined systems over and over again. There's nothing wrong with my belief system. I know it can happen. Why is it that every time I join a system, it doesn't work for me? What am I doing wrong?
Well, you're blaming the system. You know it can work for you, and yet the system doesn't work. Your belief systems are screwed up. And again, I love you enough to tell you the truth. I'm not attempting to be mean. I'm telling you that too many people think that some system, or I'm going to get with the right company, and I'm going to have the right upline, and they're going to support me properly like nobody has in the past. And that's all rubbish. It's not true. The bottom line is, if anybody has succeeded in that opportunity, you can too.
Right.
Now, that said, there is something to be said for being first to market, for being close to, the inception of who launched the company, near the top of the line. There's something to be said for that. Yeah, there are so many, endless examples of people who jumped into an opportunity that had been around for decades, and they still became multi-millionaires. Mm-hmm. So even though you think your belief systems are in line, they're not. And that's the first place that I would look. I would say, okay, maybe it's not them. Maybe it is me. Kind of like the example I gave with my 2 previous marriages. I at one point had to say, maybe it's not the women. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm asking for the wrong thing. Maybe I'm looking for the wrong thing. In business, oftentimes, I asked Branson when I had dinner with him, how do I go from millionaire to billionaire? And he said, explain to me what your business is. And I explained it to him. And he said, you need to stop being a promotion and start being a brand. Right. And the moment he said that, I got it. I realized that it was always about me going out and doing a show or doing a seminar or doing a webinar or writing a book or creating a product. And he said, you need to create a brand. And so, we've created a brand, and the brand allows me to not have to be a part of that equation. It allows me to create something I call massive passive income, where I am duplicated either in some object, some product, or in some other people. And that's what network marketing does. That's the power. And most people don't realize the majority of money that is made in direct selling or in network marketing or in any type of tiered effort, the majority of the money is made second tier. It's made not by seeing how much you can work harder. It's made by seeing how you can inspire other people to want to give you a little teeny piece of what they're doing, a little bit of their effort. There's a Wrigley chewing gum here in the U.S. I don't know if it's worldwide.
Yeah.
Good. So William Wrigley, the founder of Wrigley Chewing Gum, said years ago, we always took the short end of the stick from our distributors, meaning they always took the smallest amount of profit from the people that distributed their gum. He said, we just had a lot of little sticks coming in.
Right.
When I had dinner with Branson, I decided that I was a billionaire whose money had not yet been deposited in my bank account. And so when I said that to myself, the next step in the process for me is, all right, go out and observe people who have produced billion-dollar companies and ask yourself, what is it that they're doing? And these days we have plenty of examples of that. We've got Google, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got WhatsApp. And you have to take a look at those properties and say, okay, how did they become, the companies and the founders of those companies, become billionaires and even deca-billionaires in 5 years or less? And the answer was overwhelming to me and very simple and obvious. And it was this epiphany for everyone. And again, if you're taking notes, if you take no other note, take this note. Mm-hmm. They who acquire the customer wins. And so I realized that Facebook and Google and Twitter and so many online properties, Instagram and so much more, that they really didn't focus on what they were going to sell early on. What they focused on was, how do we acquire data? How do we acquire customers? How do we, just like we're doing right here on your amazing television program, Princess, how do we engage people, give them value up front before we ask for anything in return? And so when I saw that, I had that epiphany, and I said, I'm going to test something. I'm going to test paying people to be online. What if you got paid for all the time you spend on Facebook? What if you got paid for all the time your friends are spending on Facebook? Well, someone is getting paid for that. His name is Mark. And I said, what if I could get people to open up just one more tab on their browser and then pay them for all the time that they were on that website, pay them for all the time that their friends were on that website, and without anything to buy, nothing to sell, just a place where they could go to, and we could create a real relationship. We could create an experience that they said, I need to be here every day, 24/7. And when we tested out that concept, it blew up. We went viral almost instantly, to the point where I had to shut it down. And now we've just reopened it under another brand, and we're seeing the same thing happen all over again. Absolutely viral, no money spent in advertising, no big lists being mailed to, and yet we are seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of people pouring into this new online piece of real estate. And I think that that's the last thing I want to say about this topic, is that we really need to see real estate not as a piece of dirt here on earth, the most valuable real estate in the world right now is the real estate that we're standing on during your show, and that is digital real estate.
Excellent, excellent, absolutely fabulous. Now, guys, this is information you're learning today that takes years to figure out, and Marshall is just literally sharing it with you for free, live on the show. So take notes and make sure that you are registering this information. Right, Marshall, your experience with network marketing. Obviously, you said, going back to your story, you said you went through several jobs. And obviously, you know, you kind of moved into the network marketing space. What is it about the network marketing industry appealed to you first to break away from your job? And secondly, what was your experience firsthand when you started this industry? Did you get success straight away?
What appeals to me about network marketing is that network marketing has a very low barrier of entry. Meaning anybody can enter most businesses. There's usually not a lot of money up front. And in fact, there are many opportunities where there's no money up front, where you can be rewarded for your efforts without ever having to pay anything out.
Right.
The other piece, though, if I were to teach anybody anything, if they came to me and said, what skill set can you teach me that will ensure my success no matter where I go, the one thing I would teach people is what I call irresistible influence. Now, I have a different definition of influence as a hypnotist than most people do. Influence isn't getting someone to say yes. Influence, especially irresistible influence, is getting someone else to ask you for what you're selling. That's not even the part that's going to make you tingle. I'll repeat that.
Right.
Irresistible influence is getting someone else to ask you for what you're selling and have them believe it was their idea. I shudder when I say it. And so I think that so many people don't know how to cause that to happen. They don't know how to present what they're presenting in such a way with such language patterns that by the time they're done presenting it, the other person says, whatever you're selling, I'm buying. Sign me up right now. Please let me carry you to wherever we're going. This is all for me. And we teach that. You know, we teach that on our television network. We teach that at our live events. And I just had a guy who came through a 2-day live event called The Irresistible Influence. He is a $1 million producer for Robert Kiyosaki's company, Rich Dad. Right. And he is their highest producer. He makes $1 million plus a year. Came through my 2-day training, went and did his own training, 3-day training immediately following that, and had the best numbers he has ever had in his career. He calls me back up. He said, you're amazing. I cannot believe what you taught me. I applied so much of what you gave me, and I had one of the best weekends I've ever had in my history. Good economy, bad economy. What else can we do? And he immediately signed up for a 1-day training with me that I charge $30,000 for. We teach it right here at my palace. And he said, it doesn't matter what the cost is. I know what you are. I know what you teach. And so I think that's the other thing, that oftentimes people become afraid of what something costs. Not only what they're going to buy, also what they're selling something for. Yeah. And so they often attempt to justify the price of something rather than saying, no, it doesn't matter what the price is. If somebody wants something, they'll come up with the money. They'll pay any amount for that thing that they want. And at the same time, though, if they don't want something, it doesn't matter whether you pay them $1 million to take it, they're not taking it. And so to the person that said, you know, why have I not succeeded in all of these other companies? I want you to know I don't know the companies, and there's plenty of hacks out there. There's plenty of scams. There really are. There's also more than enough really phenomenal companies. I know, Princess, you're involved with an excellent company. May I mention it?
Yeah, of course. It's the Empower Network. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, you're involved with the Empower Network, and David have done a phenomenal job of creating a culture, creating a great product, doing great things. I would love to associate with them. I've only chatted with one of the Davids once, and I found it to be an amazing experience. And again, anybody can succeed in that business if anybody can. And I think the bigger challenge is even when we think our head is on straight, even when we believe the programs are appropriate, sometimes they're just not. And so anybody that's looking for an opportunity, network marketing or otherwise, here's what I'd recommend. Make sure you would buy the products even if there was no opportunity involved. Right. Secondly, learn the skills of irresistible influence. Do whatever you need to do to learn about selling and learn about what I call GTFM, get the freaking money. Right. And when you realize that's the core of any business, then it gets easier, and you start to realize that it can be fun. And on the topic of influence, I want to just tell you this, that when you believe in what you're selling, you have a moral and ethical obligation to sell it. And when you don't believe in what you're selling, even if it changed midstream, you have a moral and ethical obligation not to sell it. You know, when I created the $1 Million Television Network, I wanted it to be a place just like your show, where people could come every day, 24/7, to mdtn.com, and they would find great information, and they would be inspired. And even if the world was beating them up, that they'd say, you know what, I've got a place that's a safe harbor, I've got a place where I can learn things, and I've got a place that also pays me while I'm learning. And, you know, that's kind of hard to beat. That's a knock it out of the park, grand slam home run.
Absolutely beautiful, Marshall. You're absolutely incredible. The reason I'm not engaging in what you're saying is because it's going to expand into another kind of area, and I want to kind of hit on as many topics as I can as I've got you here, Marshall. So
well, you're going to have me back because I love you and I love doing this show, and you're very delightful.
No, you're absolutely extraordinary. It'll be an honor to have you.
By the way, that was Hypnosis. You're going to have me back.
I will have you back. I'll book it right now. Right, so Marshall, okay, I'm going to play the devil's advocate, right? Because I like to voice opinion of people that are not having success and kind of get them.
You Brits.
You're too funny. Marshall, basically, the main argument is, right, when someone joins a network marketing company, what they're taught on the surface is that you've got a set of products, get as many people as possible to buy these products, and that will get you the success. Now, the people that join new and fresh to a system, they say, I haven't got the success right now. I haven't made the sales. How can I encourage other people to, for this kind of, that you're going to be successful in this business if you join it, if I haven't had the success myself? So it's like a little ironic situation going on where they don't know how to promote that opportunity because they haven't had the success themselves. What is your kind of advice to that? I can explain what I say to them, but I really want to hear what you say. What advice do you give to people like that?
If I'm driving down the street and I see a man who weighs 450 pounds jogging in pink spandex shorts,
yes,
I will lean out the window, I will give him a thumbs up, and I will say, you are awesome. You are amazing. Keep it up. Great work. And then I will immediately go home and work out myself because I need to.
Right.
And so what I tell people that don't have success, that they can lay down as an example, that they don't have the proof or the validation, so to speak, is that people will love you when you're in the process. So rather than letting them know I haven't really done anything, let them know what you're doing. I am guaranteed going platinum in 2 months. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm working on right now. Even though I haven't done it in the past, I know now what I need to do, and this is what I'm doing. Nothing's holding me back. Now, here's the other challenge, though, is that most people, the moment they get involved in any opportunity, they go to their very immediate sphere of influence, their family, their friends, the people closest to them.
Yes.
And they say, hey, I'm involved in this new company. And their family and friends say, another company? What happened to the last company? And so I tell people, don't go to your family and friends because they're going to shoot you down faster than a complete stranger would. And that they need to find target-rich environments. They need to find people that not only would want their products, also people that could afford their products, target-rich, qualified environments. And again, if you're taking notes, and if you're not taking notes, my gosh, tune us out already. If at this point you haven't figured out that you're responsible and that you need to do something for yourself, tune us out. Nobody's going to help you. If you are taking notes, and I know you are because we've told you to, here's the note that I want you to take, and that is find customers with customers.
Excellent.
Find customers with customers. There's a lot of brick and mortar businesses right now that are struggling big time. You know, the economy worldwide is challenged. You know, if I live in someplace, if I live here in the U.S., I know the economy in the U.S. is not doing well. I don't realize, though, that it's worse in other places of the world. And so because the economy is not doing well, find customers with customers. Find the dry cleaner or find the local restaurant or the local automotive repair shop or anybody that has customers, because that is the most valuable asset. I told you earlier in this program that they who acquire the customer wins. And most businesses are very myopic. They see their business only as what they sell. They don't realize that they could move, they could shift, they could sell their customer database something completely different, even unrelated. and end up producing massive amounts of additional non-traditional revenue. And so when people do that, what happens is they end up becoming an asset to every business that they approach. If I go to my local dry cleaner and I say, hey, I'd like to find you an extra $4,000 or $5,000 a month, you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to sell anything. I took the liberty of printing up these flyers. All I ask is that for a month you experiment. Staple these to each of the garment bags as they go out the door. If I go to my local restaurant and I say, I took the liberty of printing up these business cards, if you'll just give one of these with each check, each bill as you send it out, at the end of the month, let's take a look and see if anybody was interested. It's finding non-traditional revenue. I also want to bust another myth, and that's that a lot of people think that they can sit in their underwear at home on their computer, posting on Facebook, frittering around on Twitter, and that it's going to make them money, and that's not how it works. In fact, you have to go outside of what you've been doing to produce a new result.
That's beautiful. Do you know, you've highlighted a very important point there, Marshall, because as entrepreneurs, this is what entrepreneurship is about. The way that you bring out your own creativity alongside a system that you join. So exactly what you just said, go out, find local businesses, look ahead where their business can go and introduce them to what you're doing and combine it together and paint them a picture of what it can be, what they're doing and how to grow their business. And this is what entrepreneurs do. They solve problems, right? They give solutions to problems out there. If they're not expanding these businesses, you give them a solution using the system that you're using and combine it together as a package. Would you say that's correct?
Absolutely. And again, it's future pacing. I have another term for it. I call it entrepreneurial exaggeration. That we as entrepreneurs, once again, we will often say where we're going when we have no clue of how we're going to get there, except we just know we're going to get there. Right. I've said it repeatedly, and I'm hoping you'll allow me to let people know where the network is. I realize subconsciously, as the salesperson in me does, I let it slip out. I'm creating a network, and I'm not just creating a network. I'm from inception as an experiment, a grand experiment, going from where we are to $1 billion network. And now that I've gotten to know you, I really would love to have you as a regular contributor on the network, so that not only can you get paid for everybody that comes to the network to watch your show, you also get paid for no matter what shows they watch on the network. You also get paid, they get paid for coming to the network. And so that's the thing, is that entrepreneurs, we begin with the end in mind. Right. So when I look at Mark Zuckerberg or Larry and Sergey, the Google boys, or any other multi-billion-dollar properties, I said, how do we create that? How do we create a place that 1 million, 10 million, 50 million, 100 million people want to go to every single day? In fact, they can't miss it, because if they miss it, they know their life will be worse off. And when I created this, and may I tell people what it is?
Yeah, absolutely, you can.
It's MDTN.com, MillionDollarTelevisionNetwork.com. And it's a network where every single day, 24/7, we have this type of content. We have people that are going for more. We have people that are not focused on negativity. We have people that are solution-minded, people that realize that we are in this thing together, that we can all win together. And they don't fight over pennies. They don't argue over quarters. They don't step over nickels to pick up pennies. They say, no, there's more than enough abundance on the planet, and also come from a place that I believe that you come from, a place that believes that if we just stop spending so much money on things that blew each other up, if we could just communicate better, that there would be more than enough resource for us to feed everyone on the planet, more than enough resource for everyone to feel safe every single day, more than enough resource to make sure that we annihilated dis-ease in our lifetime, rather than wasting most of our resources on things that simply combat each other. I think that communication equals wealth. And so MDTN.com, $1 Million Television Network, it was created because I think there's too much garbage online. I think there's too many places that people go and watch horrible videos that hypnotize them with less than effective programs. And I also think that, if people understand the simple math of business that I have a television network. My advertisers pay me money. Because they pay me a lot of money and I have low costs, I give the majority of that money back to my viewers and the people that they refer to me. And because I'm filling their heads up on a daily basis, just like you are, Princess, with phenomenal information, they come back again and again and again. Nothing to buy, nothing you have to sell, a great place to get started as far as just being a person that advances your life.
Excellent, absolutely fantastic. And information on this program that Marshall's launched will be available on the profile on the I Have a Dream show website, and you can find out much more about it and connect with Marshall that way. Marshall, another thing I want to kind of touch upon, right, with network marketing, it kind of gets taught that you are in a numbers game, right? And how many people you bring in, you just go out, send your link out, bring as many people onto the program as possible, that people forget to have a human touch, to just see people as numbers. First of all, can you just explain what the kind of problem with that is, having that kind of mindset with treat people like numbers, and how does that affect your long-term success? You may get a short-term result, but keeping your business stable for you in the long-term run, how does that affect that?
You know, it's both. It really is a numbers game, and though, as Pareto principle says, you know, 80% of your productivity is from 20% of your activity. The same thing in any business. 80% of your business is from 20% of your customers. And so you need to balance that, the customer acquisition, bringing people in, with also realizing that there is a small percentage, and I don't even think it's 20, I think it's closer to 5%, of your customer database is going to end up being where the majority of your profits come from. And so you want to identify those people. I have a very specific instruction. You know, people will message me on Facebook or find me somewhere online and send me a message and ask me questions. And I tell them, you know what, if you have a question, ask me that question on the $1 Million Television Network. Because if you're not willing to do that, if you just want me to help you behind the scenes, then you're not really putting out any effort. Right. You go to a lot of effort. It's a lot of work to book guests. It's a lot of work to do this production every single day that you do. And some people don't realize how much effort goes into this. Yeah. And on the backside of all this, the best thing that somebody can do, if you've enjoyed this broadcast, if you've loved this interview, then by all means, go to the website that this show is airing on. Take a look at the products, take a look at the things offered up, sponsor the website, place some ads there. Because when you do that, what happens is you not only promote the website, you also create a network between yourself and the host of our show. And Princess, when people do that, they become what I consider, higher end customers. And those are customers that have earned the right to have more access to you, have more access to me. And so it's identifying your leadership early on so that you don't ultimately waste your time on people that will just waste your time, and that you actually plant a seed on fertile soil.
Excellent, absolutely beautiful. Marshall, how are you for time? Because I know we're coming up to an hour. Are you okay for a few more minutes? Can I hold you there?
I'm good for time. I'm going to buzz the gate and let my producer of my TV show through the gate, because we actually film right here in the palace.
Right.
Hey, Carl, come on in. Don't you love technology?
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I know we've gone through so much information now, Marshall, but a couple more things. I'm just going to wrap up a couple of questions. Okay, as entrepreneurs, how important is it to be interdependent rather than independent? In your own experience, doing joint ventures with other people and working together with other people, how has that helped in your business and success?
It's a big thing. I told you I asked Branson what I needed to do to go from millionaire to billionaire.
Yeah.
And he said, number one, make sure you create a brand rather than a promotion. Create a brand. Create something that could be slapped on a number of things. The second thing he told me was make your business fun. And certainly anybody that's had any experience with any of the Virgin brand will tell you it's a fun brand. And an ideal brand, kind of like your brand. Yeah. The I Have a Dream is a brand. And so he said create a good brand. And the third thing he said, though, was fascinating to me. He said, borrow as much money as you possibly can.
Right.
As a person who has never borrowed money in my life, I found that a little bit scary. I didn't want to be, enslaved to anybody else. Except I realized what happens is, he said, borrow a little money, you have creditors. Borrow a lot of money, you have partners. And the beauty of having partners, the beauty of having other people with a vested interest in your endeavor's success, is that everyone has some skin in the game. And that everyone, seeks to find the answer, and we're all working together. Again, it hadn't really occurred to me until I got in this show and found out how absolutely lovely and engaging you are, that there is a big time difference between Europe and the U.S.
Yes.
And then one of the things I want to do on the MDTN.com network is put people in place around the world in those time zones so that if somebody is in England, if somebody is in Europe, that they're actually interacting with and able to engage with someone like you whose time zone is in sync with theirs. And that somebody in Australia or in Asia or all around the world, that the network is filled up with people like that, because when you and I are sharing ideas, and you say, oh my gosh, Marshall, there were 1 million people on my broadcast yesterday, that was awesome. And I asked you, what do we do to take it to 10 million? And you say, well, what about this? And it's the most brilliant, easiest idea that everybody should have come up with, because we're not all the same. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come up with different ideas, and we all pour, more into that mix. And I'm of the nature that I listen to everybody. I weigh what they're telling me. I give it a certain amount of credence based on their experience and their knowledge, except I listen to everyone, because you never know where that phenomenal idea is going to come from, where that little teeny breakthrough is going to happen, that you have your aha moment, and you say, I love it. This is beautiful. Again, there's a lot of bloggers inside of Empower Network. There's a lot of people that have a blog, and they don't really know how to monetize it. And so the MDTN.com, it's a blog. That's what it is. Right. Except the thing that I know is that everything's changing, Princess. Everything is going digital. And terrestrial television, the BBC or any of our networks here in the U.S., they are dinosaurs. And they're terrified that they're dinosaurs. They know they're dinosaurs. They're praying they're not dinosaurs. But traditional television, traditional radio, traditional print as we know it, is all going to be gone in 5 years. Mark my words. Write it down a note. That within 5 years, traditional media will not exist. The only media that will exist will be digital media. So what we're doing right now, and clearly what you're doing, is we're seeking to get ahead of that curve. And so one of the things that most bloggers don't realize how to do, they don't know how to monetize their fans. And so I was talking to a blogger yesterday. He's got 500,000 people who daily, does a daily podcast. They download his podcast. And I said, so how are you monetizing it? He gave me a number. I said, what if you could make $7 plus every single month on every single person inside of your database? They never had to buy something. You never had to sell them anything. You just made an extra $7 a month. He said, well, that'd be $350,000 a month. That's a lot of money. I said, considerably more than you're making, especially if they don't have to buy anything or sell anything. He said, how do I do it? And I said, all you need to do is get an affiliate link at MDTN.com, send them over there. And I said, more than that, why don't we put your podcast, why don't we put it on the network? That way, even though they're not buying anything from the network, our advertisers monetize you. So that intradependency, that ability to create strategic alliances is a great way to grow a business. And I want to just add one note to that. Many times people will see somebody that's in the same business, like you and I are in the same business. Many times low-thinking people that are very insecure, they'll see that as competition. And they won't say, you know what, we're in the same business. We should figure out a way to create a powerful alliance. How can I support you? How can you support me? And how can we really, together add more value to all of our audience? How do we combine all the audiences together? So that someone that may not find me that loves you, or someone that loves me and may not find you, that I can say, hey, Princess Fizz, I want to introduce you to all of my friends. And you say, oh, Marshall, I've got some friends over here too. That's where the power is. And that's where people that are highly successful, that's where they succeed. It's a cliche, and yet it's true. Your net worth is definitely equal to your network.
Absolutely beautiful. And while you're talking there, my mind's actually accumulating ideas of how we can actually combine this and actually help Empower Network members with their blog. And I will definitely send out more information. Keep an eye out, guys, for information on ways that we're going to kind of combine this with Marshall Sylver's website. But absolutely extraordinary. You've hit the nail on the head. Having an abundance mindset is what it's about. You can't just think about me. How much money am I going to make? How much is this going to do for me? You have to kind of jump out of yourself and kind of see how much value you can give to other people in their lives. And I think money just kind of comes beautifully in as an exchange. You won't even expect money to come to you, but it kind of just comes in exchange of that, doesn't it? Just by giving that value.
It does. I have a friend of mine, excuse me, And he's a good friend, except he's very poverty conscious.
Yes.
And he's a real smart guy. In fact, that might even be his curse. He's so smart, he's always thinking too much and not doing enough. And he calls me up the other day and he said, hey, I've got an invite to this amazing party, and let's go. There's going to be all these really big movers and shakers there. I said, great, I'd love to go to the party. We go to the party, I meet somebody, and it's somebody that can be very pivotal in what we're doing. I meet him, I create a relationship, I call my buddy up, and I say, thank you so much for inviting me to the party. He said, what's my percentage? I said, what are you talking about? He said, what's my percentage? I took you to the party, you met that person there, now you're going to do business, I want a piece of this.
Right.
And I raised my eyebrow and I said, we didn't have that agreement. You know, if it was reversed and I took you to a party and you met somebody that could advance your business, I'd be glad I did that for you. You're my friend. Right. Or if you had called me up and said, look, I'm going to a party, there's movers and shakers there, if you cut a deal with anybody, I want 10%, I could agree or not agree. And I think that poverty consciousness of thinking, what can I make here? How can I get as rich as I possibly can? I think that is possibly the second biggest reason people don't have success. Yeah. Whereas if my friend had never called me, I know who took me to that party. I know who began this relationship. Yeah. And he would be, foremost on my mind when I have other people that I think can advance his business. And so I think that you really need to ask yourself, how can I contribute more to other people's lives? I don't have to ask for anything. People that are successful remember where the favors came from, and they also remember where the favors didn't come from. So if I'm constantly introducing people to people that have helped their business and they never introduced me, there's a point where I just stop introducing them. I start introducing the ones that introduced me. And then again, it is that thing that do not throw your seed on barren soil. If you keep going after business with somebody and it never bears fruit, then go after business somewhere else. It may not be where you were supposed to be.
Excellent. You've given $1 million tips there just in that sentence, Marshall. It's absolutely incredible. I'll rewind the show and watch that again. Listen to every word that Marshall said on the show because it's incredible. Marshall, before I let you go, right, I just want to kind of highlight the fact, with hypnosis, how do you kind of get people to listen to what you say? Break away from that kind of mindset where I have to exchange money to access the system that I'm promoting. How do you kind of overcome that barrier and warm up to those people so they trust you and like you and trust you by the way? Because I know words are about 9% of impact. It's more about your eye contact, the voice, and I know you know much more about this, but is this what hypnosis is? Your body language and all that, does that all play part of it?
Well, communication equals wealth, and we communicate in two ways. We communicate internally, the 1,500 words per minute going through our own mind, telling us who we are and who we aren't, what we can be, what we can do, what we can have. We communicate with the outside world. That's called influence. The challenge is you cannot effectively communicate with the outside world until you take charge of all of your thoughts and emotions.
Right.
The other piece, though, that you asked me about is the money piece. And then most people's programs about money are really messed up. Yeah. And it's because most of us were raised by parents that struggled themselves. And, at my age, at over 50 years old, my mom lived through the Great Depression in the U.S., where times were really, really, really hard. And so she had some pretty messed up programs about money. And I think that if you weren't raised by people that had healthy relationships with money, that you will constantly battle those demons and not even know what the demons are. So that's the reason, I believe, it is essential to find programming like what you do on your show here, like what we do at mdtn.com. You've got to find better programming on a regular basis. And you need to stop the other programming. You need to shut off your television set. You need to stop reading the newspaper. If it's important enough, you'll get the news. And you need to say, I'm going to fill my brain up with a better diet so that I can produce better results, so that no matter what's going on in the world, I'm motivated, I'm inspired, I'm excited even about what's going on because I can make a difference. And then ultimately, again, and I keep coming back to this, lose the need for other people's approval. Do not be afraid of rejection. In fact, if somebody rejects your network marketing offer, your opportunity, feel bad for them. Don't feel bad for you. Feel bad for them. That for some reason, the great thing that you were offering up to them, they didn't take advantage of. Do not make it about you. It's not about you. It's about them. Right. And then once again, if you are not head over heels in love with your opportunity, and again, some people aren't going to like this. If you are not head over heels in love with the business that you're in, if you wouldn't sell those products even if there were no opportunity involved, you got to change. You've got to find what you love. You got to find what you'd be evangelical about. Because when you do that, you'll be authentic. And authenticity is the first element, the most powerful element to creating rapport with people, which is the first element of someone knowing, loving you, and trusting you, and wanting to hear what you have to say once they trust you, once you have rapport. Second step in irresistible influence is to elicit their outcome. Too many people make the mistake of selling what they're selling rather than selling what the other person is buying. And you can't sell what the other person is buying unless you know what it is. Because your job as a person of influence, once you've elicited their outcome, is to make what you're selling look like what they want, to create the frame of reference so that what you're offering up looks like what they want. Again, you know, with MDTN.com, what I did, Princess, was I said they're already online. They're spending hours there. Why don't I figure out a way to reward them for spending those hours there? And once they're spending those hours there and they get rewarded, they look back at me and they say, wow, that was easy. You know, because think about this for a second. If I'm doing a show and you're doing a show every single day and we're letting people know there are millions to be made in MLM, there are millions to be made in network marketing, in being an entrepreneur, in owning your own business, and all we had to do was put somebody in front of a screen that wasn't selling them anything. It was just building them up and telling them that story and giving them reassurance. Because never a prophet in your own city is very true. If somebody else is saying the very thing that we've been telling our friend will look at it and go, you know what, you're right. Maybe I can take a look at things differently. So I just wanted to, I know we're wrapping up the show very soon, I wanted to compliment you on all of your efforts, on having such an amazing show and working so hard to bring so many guests on the show. I pray that I've given some great value to everyone today. And I really am very sincere about wanting to talk to you, not only about, excuse me, coming back on your show. I would love to be a guest again if you would have me. I also would very sincerely love to talk to you if you're interested at all in being a regular, even daily contributor on MDTN.com, because I think that you would have a blast. I know my audience would love you as much as I've enjoyed being here. And so, you know, there's lots for you and I to talk about, and I'm very grateful you did the very thing that you were talking about. You reached out to me. And you said, hey, how would you like to come on my show? Because that is what people that succeed do. We reach out, we create relationships, we seek the win-win. And, you know, it's people that seek to get as much as they can out of a deal will never have long-term deals. The people that seek to create something that is a balanced relationship, that everybody wins, a little give, a little take, everybody wins, those are the ones that sustain, and those are the ones that 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, you'll look back and say, my gosh, do you remember that day we met on your show? And you remember that day that started everything, and then the day that our whole worlds went to the next level, even though they were already awesome. So I just want to say to you and your entire audience, thank you, thank you, thank you. Check out MDTN.com. By all means, encourage Princess Fizz to be a part of that network, because we love to have amazing programming like what you're doing on the network. And by all means, make sure you visit IHaveADreamShow.com and check out replays of not just this show, all the other shows, also all the products and services offered there. And if you've loved this show and you've watched it for free, either become an advertiser at IHaveADreamShow.com and or just make a contribution. Because, you know, when you put money out into the world, that's a way of acknowledging that you have abundance, that you have enough, that you can plant a seed and it can grow. And once again, do not be afraid to plant a seed. It shows good money awareness, and it shows a prosperity consciousness rather than a poverty consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely beautifully said, Marshall. I mean, I'm a huge believer in collaborating ideas with other entrepreneurs, because there's some skill sets that I don't have that other entrepreneurs have, and I appreciate that. And there's some, you just kind of, when you combine skill sets and experience, you just build a bigger picture, and another story unfolds, and another story unfolds. So I think it's absolutely amazing. I'm completely open to whatever you've got to offer, Marshall, and we will be sharing this with our audience. So thank you very much. Now, Marshall, all I want to say is I'll wrap up this show. Thank you so much for coming on and giving your precious time to the audience today. But this is the I Have a Dream show. Can I ask you to share your dream with the audience?
Yeah, I have a dream of creating the first multi-billion-dollar online network. And my dream is born out of the fact that I've traveled all over the world in private jets. I live in a palace here in Las Vegas, a 17,000 square foot palace. I have a home on the ocean in Southern California. And 3 years ago, my world changed. I had fallen in love with the love of my life 7 years ago. 3 years ago, she blessed me with my son, Sterling Sylver. And as I boarded a private jet to fly off to somewhere else to teach people the things we're talking about, my heart sank. And the reason it sank was I realized that my wife and my newborn son weren't coming with me. They were staying home. Yeah. And even though I was flying on a private jet, even though I was changing lives and making millions of dollars in the process, it occurred to me very quickly that I didn't want that life anymore, that I wanted a life where I spent the majority of my life, of my days, of my moments with my family. And so that was where it started percolating in my brain. I'm going to create something new. I'm going to create something that I can do from my home, or at least from a studio very near my home, so that I can create a network that whether I am live on the network and I'm doing my show, or other people are doing their shows, or there's replays of shows, that it can generate revenue 24/7 for me, and that it's something that can make a difference in the world. You know, I said what we believe in at the MDTN.com, milliondollartelevision.network.com. What I believe in is I believe that we are a world who has shrunk, that the internet shrunk everything. You and I can have this conversation thousands of miles apart from each other in real time. And I believe that we have to look at this from a global viewpoint of unity. You know, I understand why people might not like U.S. citizens, might even resent us, be angry enough to commit crimes against us. If they're struggling halfway around the world, if they have to worry about their children walking to school and stepping on a landmine, or a U.S. tank rolling down their street, I mean, how would I feel if it was reversed? Right. I happen to believe that the U.S. are bullies, and I happen to believe that the way to stop that is for us to have these kinds of communications, for people to see me as a person, to know that I care about my kids as much as you care about your kids and your loved ones, and that I absolutely believe that if we took the stance as the general population and understood that it's we the people, that governments are supposed to be of the people and most are not, that if we took the stance that we're going to communicate to each other and that we want to stop building things that blow each other up, that we want to use that money and that resource and that knowledge and that energy to be sure that everybody has healthy food, that everybody has shelter, that alternate fuel sources are utilized and found and grown that don't destroy the planet. If we'll come together, I believe that the solution of coming together, the unity of coming together, is the right solution. And I believe, once again, that is the ultimate experience of an interdependence, of that relationship of creating strategic alliance. And again, I love what you stand for. I love everything you've said on this program, and I'm grateful to be here. So my dream is that I would win a Nobel Prize, and that I would win that Nobel Prize by helping people understand real economics and not the twisted economics that have been thrown at us by people that might benefit from seeing those twisted economics and having us believe those economics are real. I also have a dream where everyone's responsible for their own life, where nobody says you owe me anything, because I don't owe you anything, you don't owe me anything. We owe it to ourselves, though, to take the God-given gifts that we have, the resource that we already have, and say, okay, how do I play this out as well as possible? How do I stop being a victim and be a victor? And that's my dream, is that through communication like this, through programs like yours, Princess, that we would all say, you know what, maybe nobody owes me anything. Maybe I need to take care of my children. Maybe they didn't ask to be here. I asked them to be here, so I don't owe them anything. Excuse me, they don't owe me anything. I owe them everything. Right. And I think if people would come from that place, we'd be a better planet.
That's absolutely beautiful, Marshall. I could listen to you all day. You're just absolutely amazing.
And you can listen to me all day at mdtn.com.
There you go. Well, guys, I'm sure you've absolutely enjoyed the show today and picked up tons of information throughout the show. Marshall is an expert in whatever he does, so please go back and listen to the show again. And I'll be putting up details on this website that Marshall's launching, so you can collaborate, guys. Collaborate ideas and bring people together. That's what it's about, you know. And guys, what I want to say is dream big. We're not special, okay? There's nothing that, you know, would drop down to make millions or anything like that. It's the actions that you take, guys, right? It's the right actions, being open-minded and dreaming big and taking the right actions to acquire your dreams, having a huge why as well that will keep you going through those hard times. and just kind of have a bigger dream than, you know, like Marshall's dream of, you know, obtaining the Nobel Prize and influencing so many people around the world. That's where your dreams should be, and we believe in your dreams. Achieve your dreams so I can come in, and you can come onto the show so I can share them with the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep your eye out on the profile on my website and more information to come. Thank you very much, Marshall. Thank you, everybody.
Here, Princess. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.